everybody. My name's Gwyneth, and I'm going to talk you through. I'm going to talk you through what I do in terms of how I teach and how I deliver things. Chris Comms is my avatar on Facebook, if you're wondering, and that's why she's here with me today. She's the other part of me. Both Chris and Gwyneth are having their birthday today, so we've had a fabulous time watching our birthday messages happening and students trying to outdo each other with these really awesome things I'm going to do tonight, which, as I have a 5-year-old in Lynette Sheridan-Bird's office at the moment, that's unlikely to happen. But anyway, okay. So, what's my approach to teaching? I come from an industry background. I've worked in public relations and marketing for a number of years. So, I guess in my life, I've always gone at things full on, head on, full throttle, and let's get this done, let's make it exciting, let's have fun. And then at the end of it go, all right, we'll do it all again tomorrow. And I guess that's the way I've lived my life, and that's certainly how I've approached my teaching. I think one of the things that I've found really interesting with students, particularly here at Western Sydney, is that they really like war stories. They like to hear about what's happening in industry, what happened in industry. And when I started 8 years ago here as an academic, my war stories were fresh. How I now refresh them now is I'm on the board of the Public Relations Institute of Australia. I network heavily with people in industry. I do a lot of volunteer work within the industry, so I've still got stories that are coming through that actually build and develop my cases and enhance my teaching. I come from having been at university and actually loathing my academics that taught me when I was an undergrad, and I thought, I'm not going to be that one that gives you the really tricky questions or does something really mean at the end of semester. So I say at the outset, I've had a lecturer that I didn't like. I don't want you to necessarily like me, but I do want you to learn from what I'm going to teach you, and I want you to grow from that experience. And I guess I make my real things real, and my submission deadlines are non-negotiable. My submission deadline is 9 o'clock, that's it. It doesn't change. I've had people scream and yell at me, and I've explained to them, and I always give them the war story of mine when I actually had, working in another life, had put in a bid. There was only 3 organisations. I was one of them. The bid had cost our company nearly $60,000. The guy that couriered it stood outside and had a cigarette before he went in to submit our document. It was 2 minutes past 2. It came back unopened. It was a $2 million piece of business that we didn't even get the chance to pitch for because someone decided they needed their nicotine break. That is why our deadlines are enforced. And when we talk about that, the students get there and they know not to mess with us after first year because all of us, particularly in the PR major, really enforce that rule. I always try to link my research with my teaching and my teaching with my research, and so that's actually, I've applied for PDP or ADP for next year, and it's thanks to my research outputs which have been in social media and in crises that I've been invited to Germany, Italy and to the States next year to test my blended learning model that we're going to talk about today, which is really quite exciting to test it in an international market to see how well it works. And then I'm in Washington at the end of May next year presenting and chairing the Marketing and Public Policy Conference and a special session on disasters. And what was really exciting was about 2 weeks ago was when Obama actually mentioned our research, which has been cited by the US Red Cross, so it was like, woohoo. So I hope he's still the president when I get there, but anyway. I change my lecture content every year. I've got a basic map of what I'm going to teach my students, but my lecture content changes every year. I update it. It sounds onerous sometimes, but I don't rework it, I actually rewrite because I need fresh examples. I'm on lots of different things through LinkedIn and Twitter and on social media, so I'm constantly getting alerts. I'm drawing in examples, and again, I'm working in industry and working with industry, so that's been fun. I guess the other thing I found was that using textbooks as a supporting reference has been what the students really like. They look at me and go, for $120 I could eat for a week. And you go, yeah, really good point. So I've gone out and written cases and teaching cases that now go up online, and I give those away for free. I cite my work, I speak and work with colleagues, and they also provide, we trade teaching materials so that our students get a really good body of work that is up to date and current. Because again, if you're talking, because I do a lot about issues and crises, if you're talking about the Exxon Valdez oil spill, it was actually not the worst oil spill in the world, it was probably the worst handled, but it's so long ago that we actually need current what happened yesterday. And I teach my issues class in first semester, which of course ties in with the rugby league season, and every year I have something to talk about. Sorry. I think everything's changing at a rapid rate and we need to keep pace, which is what I do, and I guess you got to do what fits you, but this is my story and this is what works for me. And yeah, I do. I actually love teaching. So what do? I do all sorts of things. I do traditional lectures, but I'm always usually over here, or I'm walking around particularly this lecture theatre and asking questions. I sit down with students and find out what they're thinking about. I come out from behind the podium, I ask them questions, I engage. I do follow-up posts on Facebook, I do follow-up tweets. I remind students of what we've gone through today. With Chris Com's avatar, I can see whether they've actually got the concepts and grasped them and really understood them for the week, excuse me. And if they haven't, Chris usually goes, oh, wasn't she a pain? But I think that meant that we needed to think about it this way. And they will get long streams of engagement and discussion, particularly over the weekend, when students have more time and they're actually out on Facebook, and they're probably out doing lots of other things, but on Facebook they're there anyway. It's their best friend, it's in their back pocket, and they ask me questions and I respond. I invite a wide cohort to come in and speak face-to-face. Sometimes we Skype them in, sometimes we use it as a webinar. Through my connections with the PRIA, they do free webinar series on the Public Relations Institute of Australia's website. And because I'm on the board, I can actually say to them, you know, in this 13-week period, I would really love if you could find an expert webinar discussion on this, which would be useful and practical for practitioners, but obviously the PRIA is also trying to get student members involved in the institution and organisation, and they then give the webinar free so the students can actually dial in and just watch it and gain that data. When they get that information, I then ask them a question on it, or ask them to write a multiple choice question, particularly when I have guest lecturers. I say, okay, the guest lecturer's gone, let's go back through what they've said. Now that was their war story, let's take it back to the theory that we were discussing today, and that's really what that was all about. Now here's the competition. In teams of 2, write a multiple choice question about what you've just learned. And what does it show me? In a multiple choice question, if they're giving me 4 answers, and I say, give me the 4 key points and one that wasn't discussed. And I go through it and audit it, and then come back onto Facebook and reinforce the message and go, actually guys, what that person was talking about was this, and this is how the theory matches. And it's easier to improve their learning by actually getting them involved with that. The multiple choice question, whoever gets the best question wins cupcakes the following week. They get to choose the colour, I get my kids to bake them, and they all think it's hilarious because Chris Combs posts about it. And so I tweet and I Facebook to reinforce messages every time I teach. With our tutors and with our tutorials, because we've got that one-on-one, 1 hour session, what we tend to do with our tutes is actually do them every second week face-to-face, because it then gives us a 2-hour body of time to talk to students, which gives it a much better engagement. Every year we look for tutors who are current practitioners in some level, so that they're coming with their connections with industry to deal with our students, to give our students better exposure to what's actually currently happening. And it helps them forge better links with industry, particularly when they're then looking for their internship unit in year 3. In the weeks when they don't see us face-to-face, in their tutorial time, there is an online segment that they have to work with their teams to do. And they are typically tasks drawn from our practitioner activities or something that's happened to us. So, for example, in one of the classes that I teach is an events class, and one of the online classes, questions to them is, okay, so you are an events manager and, oh God, come really quickly. Okay, oh, I've only got 1 minute, I'm so sorry. Okay, sorry, we'll miss that a bit. All right, so I upload everything I can on vUWS on vUWS. I drive all my students there. All their assessment has to go on vUWS. It's paperless. I don't accept anything. Everything has to be online. All our lecture notes, teaching notes, everything is there. Students didn't like vUWS, so that's why I went to Chris Comms, and there she is. See, cupcakes. There is a simulation that I run really quickly. They wanted to learn how to do crises, and so I developed a simulation. They work in teams. They have 2 weeks of posts. It goes on vUWS. There's Facebook and Twitter to remind them. Each team has to blog about it. I'm constantly supporting and engaging with them, and it runs from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock daily. Really quickly, what do? I love teaching. I check my emails 7 days a week and I respond 7 days a week. That's my choice. That's how I like to do it, because otherwise I'd just forget things. Chris, as a student, asks questions and reinforces things. I use my links with industry. I believe that vUWS students need a champion, and that's me. I always link my research back to my teaching. And there you go, there's Chris Combs. See, that we were doing a flood research and I found a pair of shoes that looked like flippers. They think it's funny. Here was the cupcakes that they chose. Thou shalt not pass. There's constant engagement. We teach about the James Hardy case, and that's where that link and that news comes from. So, one size doesn't fit all, but my FFUs this year were 5 out of 5 and 4.8 out of 5 in learning tasks and overall satisfaction. Every student seems to friend Chris on Facebook. They like her. 70% follow me on Twitter, and about 50% follow me on Pinterest. I have a Pinterest page as well, and I post things up there. I guess my most important thing is this is what fits for me. But if you take anything away from it, my students seem to really like how we've engaged and what it's done. This ended up winning me a national teaching citation this year. And I couldn't have done any of this if it hadn't been for Bronwyn Cole, Peter Hutchins and Lynette Sheridan-Burns, because all the way along in my career, those three people have supported me and helped me, and I'd like to say thank you.